So I went to a physics teachers conference this weekend. It's called the American Association of Physics Teachers. And all the great physics teachers were there, except for Mr. Platt. I guess he had other things to do this weekend.
He's too good for it.
Yeah.
He's too good for it.
So it was held at Foothill College, very local. Now, about 3 years ago, I just wanted to, I was thinking about this. It was 3 years ago. It was held at Stanford, and
Did you go?
yeah, I did. And I don't know if you guys remember this. Well, so they invited this very famous guest speaker, professor from Iceland, a guy from Iceland. Yeah, his name is Sohcahtoa, Professor Sohcahtoa. And he came. He was scheduled to come early because he wanted to see. He'd never been to California. But I don't know if you remember 3 years ago, there was that gigantic volcanic eruption in Iceland. There was this volcano with like an unpronounceable name, and it exploded in April, and it shut down all the air traffic over the Atlantic. There was so much volcanic dust in the air that they were afraid to fly through it because it actually, that kind of stuff can just, like shut down engines and things. So they actually just canceled all the flights over the Atlantic. And in fact, Dan Burns, Mr. Burns, another physics teacher, his daughter was stuck over with the choir. My daughter's friends were all stuck in Paris, of all places, for the week. They were on a spring break trip, with choir, and then they got stuck. No, they basically had to camp out at the airport for a couple extra days. Yeah, that's so good. They didn't have enough money to stay in Paris itself. So Sohcahtoa was actually delayed getting here, and so finally they cleared air traffic control, and they said, okay, you can fly now. And so he came in actually the day the conference started, and he was supposed to be the keynote speaker. So they needed someone to pick him up at the airport, so I volunteered to pick him up at SFO. And it was just before. No, he had luggage. Yeah.
Is he a big guy?
Well, it was the luggage that wouldn't fit in the Lotus. So he had just gotten off the flight, and he was supposed to give the keynote speech that evening. That afternoon, and he didn't sleep on the plane, and he was all like kind of frazzled from this whole thing. Hang on here. Oh. So he asked. He said, I really need to meditate. I need to meditate before I give my presentation. And so we got to the campus, and he said, is there a really quiet, calm place that I can meditate? And I said, yeah. So I took him to a meadow, and it was a beautiful spring, not like this one. It was very, very wet that year, so the grass was really green. I took him to a meadow where it was sunny and the grass was growing, and he just went out in the meadow, and he sat there. I let him out of the car, and he began to meditate. And I don't know what the Icelandic meditation sounded like. And he was meditating. And and while he was sitting there in the meadow, he noticed he saw a snake over about, I don't know, maybe 150 feet away. And it wasn't any danger to him. It was it was a rattlesnake, actually. And then he saw a bird. He saw a bird overhead, a really big one. And it was like, I don't know. He had never been to California before, but it was, he figured out it was a vulture. And, we have a lot of vultures around here. And it wasn't in danger. He wasn't about to be eaten by the vulture, and the rattlesnake wasn't about to, bite him or anything. But he was just admiring this, the beauty of California. And if you know anything about Iceland, Iceland is really, really barren. So he was sitting there, and he's meditating and soaking in the beauty. And he said, this scene, how can I express this? Now, the vulture and I and the rattlesnake, we all have in the same place, and yet we have a different point of view of this whole scene. And he was trying to figure out how he could express these three separate points of view. And so he meditated about it. He's kind of thinking, and I could hear him, and he's kind of, he's just chanting, Om, Om. He's trying to figure out how he can express all these different points of view. So finally he said, aha, I know how to express this. The rattlesnake. The rattlesnake looks high in the sky and he sees a vulture above the Icelander. The rattlesnake sees the vulture over the Icelander. And I see the vulture over the rattlesnake. How can I express that? The vulture over the rattlesnake. And the vulture looks down and he sees the Icelander and the rattlesnake over here, side by side. Neither one is more important in this relationship. And the vulture sees the Icelander and the rattlesnake side by side. We did.
Yeah, but that's what we got.